Hey, welcome back to Matt's Garage DIY. Today we're going to make another peep sight, specifically peep sight for a shotgun. All right, so I've made two peep sights in the past, both for rifles. Really happy with the results of those, consistently hitting a 10-inch gong out at 200 yards. For my shotgun, I did a survival shotgun build. You can click on the link to watch that. But as part of this survival shotgun build, I included a 12 gauge to 22 LR adapter. Went out and did some test firing with that and wasn't super impressed with the results. I was getting a 2 to 3 inch group at 10 yards, and as soon as I went out to 20 yards, that group opened up to about 8 inches. Not ideal for the survival situations where you're going to be trying to get some sort of small game to sustain yourself. Of course, we're just working with a little bead sight on the front and absolutely nothing at all on the back. So I'm going to make this little peep sight. My goal will be to consistently be able to hit about a 6-inch steel gong at 30 yards. So let's get started. So here we go. One of the biggest concerns I have about this build is the fact that I'm not going to have a way to really adjust for windage and elevation. I will be able to raise my point of aim a little bit by filing a little bit of height off the front sight. That is pretty much it. So I'm going to start by doing a bunch of careful measurements. I'll kind of do a little diagram explaining what I'm doing, but I'm going to count on this shotgun being zeroed at 30 yards. And if I end up shooting out further than that, I'm going to have to sort of manually adjust my point of aim to accommodate for that. All right, time for the math. I'm going to try to make this as quick and painless as possible while still making sense. So at the end of my barrel, I measured the inside diameter. I got 18.28 millimeters or 0.719 inches. As well, I measured inside of my barrel to the top of my bead sight. Again, this is a peep sight, so the top point is going to be critical. That gave me 6 millimeters or 2.36 inches. So I slide my paper down. Ideally, what I'm looking for then, when I take half of the inside diameter plus the distance from the inside of the barrel to the top of the bead sight, so that's this 18.28 divided by 2 plus the 6 millimeters, gives me a total of 15.14 millimeters. That'll be center line of the barrel to the top of the bead sight. When I go to the opposite end of the gun, I now measure center line of the firing pin, go up that 15.14. That will give me where I want my center line of my peep sight to be. So what we want and what we get are not always the same thing. When I measure center line of my firing pin to the top of the receiver, I actually end up with 15.4 millimeters, which puts the top of the receiver higher than my center line of my new peep sight. What I've done, I'm going to add a Hi-Vis front sight onto the front of the shotgun. That will then increase my the height of my front sight to 8.2 millimeters or 0.322 inches, changing this back measurement of what I want to 17.34 millimeters or 0.68 inches. That will now allow me approximately 2 millimeters sort of above kind of the top of the action to the center line of the peep sight. That's where I'll have to drill that hole for my new peep sight. All right, I got some 1/8 by 1 inch flat bar. Just going to use this to make my sight. So first thing, basically the sight's going to sit on this curved portion. So I'm just going to put my bar in there. I'm just using this other piece as a bit of a spacer. Put my bar on and then scribe that. You see there's the rough shape. So I'll start probably just with my bench grinder, carving that out, getting a little bit of a shape here, put my hole in while I've still got some bar to work with, and then we'll start to fine tune it and make it actually look like something. So I just wanted to show you, I've now marked where the center line of my peep sight is going to be. Basically I'm looking at 2 millimeters from the top of the round to the center of the hole, and then I just split the difference. So of course this measurement's in inches, but it was like 0.628 of an inch. So almost 5/8 of an inch from center line to just this line that I've sort of squared off that would match the side. That's where my center line of my hole is going to be. I'm going to drill that right now. I think that's going to make this far easier than trying to drill that hole afterwards in a tiny little piece. All right, there's my hole. That is 0.09 inches. All right, there's the rough fit. Little grinding, little filing, little sanding. That's what we've got. All right, so we've tinned the sight first. I just clamped it in a pair of vice grips, put some flux on. We're using metalwork solder, silver bearing solder. Just bought this at Canadian Tire, but you can get that at any hardware store. On here, we've now put our solder paste on. We're going to heat that up, put some of the solder on, and once we have both halves tinned, stick them together, heat it up, add a little bit more solder, and Bob's your uncle. Alright, this is a little ugly at the moment, but we now have both halves tinned. So we're going to heat this up again, stick the two pieces together. I already punched a little mark in the top to help me line up the center of my sight with the center of the firing pin. And after that, it's just a matter of cleaning it up and doing some test fires. I've got the sight soldered on. I'm just going to kind of clean up some of the solder with a file and some sandpaper. That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to re-blue that and show you the kind of final product. And then tomorrow I think we'll go do some shooting and see how we do. There's the final product. I've re-blued what I can. There's a little bit of solder sort of right in the crack that I could still see, so I just touched that up with a little bit of flat black enamel paint. Overall, I'm very happy with the way that's turned out. So there's my new Peep sight. My Hi-Vis sight at the front. And there is my sight picture. All right, there's the first three shots. I think the last one we maybe pulled a little, but we're going to move out to 20 yards. Once we get out to that distance, then we'll maybe start making some adjustments to the front. All right, here's our group at 20 yards. Mostly in line. Kind of pulled that one to the side. Had a little low flyer here, but definitely kind of left to right. We're doing good. Still hitting a little bit high. I think I'm going to leave it like that. That hitting there is basically sort of lollipopping this whole circle in our Peep sight. Now we're going to try a 6-inch gong out at 30 yards. So hit that gong consistently out to 30 yards. We actually pushed it out to 40 and 55 and we're still able to hit that. So really happy with the results. Hope you liked this video and stay tuned for the next one.